Hello, I'm Scott Soshnick.
And I'm Eben Novi-Williams, and this is the Can You Take Me Higher sports business podcast, the Sporticast.
See, I thought you were kidding that you were going to start with Creed, but you know me, like I would have had this thing. It never works because I just, we don't have the techno savvy here, but I would have had it all teed up on my phone, but now I'm trying to do it as we speak. Creed, take me higher. Go. Let's see how fast. Look at this.
Here comes the copyright infringement.
Yeah, here comes. Well, that's okay. We haven't gotten the C and D letter yet, so that's right. Hold on. This is like, I'm hitting go, hitting play. Let's see. Play. Let's go. I'm going to probably have a commercial first. Yeah, there's a commercial first. Figures. My son actually, I refused to get him the premium Spotify stuff. And he's like, Dad, it's so embarrassing in the locker room, or I'm going to play music and they all make fun of me. I'm like, well, tough. You don't need it. That's ridiculous. You can sit through a 2-second commercial. Here we go. But I can hear this in my headphones just fine, so don't tell me the quality here is not good enough.
What a tune right there. Not every day you get to start the show with Creed.
I loved this song when it came out. This gets me going every time. I hear Take Me Higher. I think it's a great song.
Well, tell the people why we're listening.
All right, I'll put it I'll let it play in the background. I don't know how close it is. We are doing this because the Texas Rangers, earlier in the playoffs, they said much of their success had to do with the playing of this very song and the band in their clubhouse, and it's become a thing. And downloads for the band, not quite nationally yet, but definitely in Texas, downloads and streams of this song and their album are rising. And I chuckled that Kirk Cousins yesterday after the Vikings won said, as part of the thing, one of the reasons why is because, they borrowed a page from the Rangers and they were playing Creed in the locker room.
Yeah.
So I think if the Rangers went, hold on. That's my old DJ days right there on cue. But if the Rangers go, I'm going to shut this off now. But if the Rangers do indeed make it to the World Series, I will predict that band is interviewed, they become part of the broadcast, and this becomes a much bigger story.
Yeah, this is a fun one. You see this a lot. Who was the hockey team playing Blink-182? Was it the Avalanche a couple years ago?
I don't know.
These songs that become a thing for fans or for players, and then bleed into the actual business for these bands. We wrote last year about that Narco song, the Timmy Trumpet song that Edwin Diaz, the Mets closer, would come out to, and how that just became a sensation in New York for baseball fans for a little while. And economics-wise, I'm sure it works out great for Creed. I don't know exactly.
There's no downside to Creed.
What the play per stream situation is for them on Spotify, but yeah, this has got to be great for them.
Kudos to our friends over at Luminate. Like within 2 minutes of me saying, "Hey, I'm just curious. Can you guys pinpoint for me whether the downloads in Texas or nationally are on the rise for Creed?" They were back and said, "Oh, yep, we got a bump in Texas for sure." And we'll see what becomes nationally. But this is the kind of stuff I love. I love to follow this and see if Texas wins, if something bigger becomes of it. Then we'll probably have the lead singer. What's his name? I don't know. We'll have the lead singer at next year's Invest in
The
Sports.
lead singer of Creed. Yeah, I do.
What do you think? Next year's Invest in Sports, we'll have him as a guest, right?
Yeah,
not
that'd
just
be great.
not just Steve Cohen. Speaking of Narco, not just Hal Steinbrenner, not just David Blitzer, not just Derek Cardinal, not just Jimmy Haslam, not just Jessica Berman. What did you take away from the All-Star conference we had last week?
Yeah, so much. I mean, I think and it's a self-selecting group. I was surprised at how bullish everybody is on sports. Right, we talk about a lot of things on this show about what's happening in the media world, what's happening in the investment world. Everybody seems to be full steam ahead on sports as an asset class, which is a relatively, in the broader marketplace, I would say a relatively new thing, maybe in the past 5 years. And now that everybody has woken up to that idea, it certainly seems as though valuations are, regardless of what happens in the macro economy, seem to just be going up and up and up. And well, interesting to see if that changes at all, or if it just continues to be that way.
My favorite part was the dichotomy between Hal Steinbrenner, owner of the Yankees, and Steve Cohen, owner of the Mets.
Yeah, which you knew.
But I mean, they made news for two different reasons. Like, Hal was discussing the organizational meetings that were had in Tampa. Now, I think folks in the media knew that the organization was having a meeting, but Hal kind of expounded or expanded on what was discussed, and it got nasty at sometimes, but respectful. So, of course, everybody, the reporters in attendance, were asking Hal right away about this meeting, and that's what was written about. Steve Cohen, on the other hand, when we always talk about things that are germane to sports, the pillars, real estate being among them, and Steve Cohen offered up some very interesting comments about the parking lot and the area surrounding Citi Field.
Yeah.
What did he say? Something like it's nothing but concrete. You can get your hubcaps and you can get your catalytic converter back.
It's only useful if you need a hubcap fixed or something like that.
Yep. So and he's right. There's a reason why he has put in for a casino license, and he talked about his visions. He's got a lot of visions and plans, and he didn't really say exactly what it would be. Because he has to see if he gets the casino, whatever. But surely, much like Dodger Stadium, where they're waiting to see, and Frank McCourt still owns 50% of that, you're waiting to see what they will build there, how will it become ancillary. But Steve was talking about, of course, the soccer stadium's going there, NYCFC. But it's clear, much like Patriot Place, fans want a place to go pregame and postgame. It has to be a destination. So I can envision much what John Ledecky was there, owner of the Islanders, and he was talking about the mixed-use development that he and Scott Malkin are putting together.
Ted Leonsis touched on some of this as well.
Ted Leonsis talked much on so thank you. See, I'm like, who am I forgetting here? Ted Leonsis? Yeah, of course. So you can see the vision for what Steve Cohen thinks can be around Citi Field. It's not just about the sport anymore. We talk about it all the time. There are many tent poles, finance, media, and he talked media as well. But real estate's going to be really, really interesting part for what's happening over at Citi Field.
A lot of people on that stage, Scott, were asked about what areas they're looking at next. If they had X amount of dollars, where would they be going?
There was somewhat consensus,
Unsurprisingly, women's sports and youth sports were the two that came up the most in terms of maybe things that a lot of these investors were not thinking about 4 or 5 years ago, but they are definitely thinking about now. Neither of those things necessarily surprised me, Scott, but certainly the consensus, the agreement among pretty much everybody who was there, I think really underscores that both of those areas are areas we're going to see a lot more money flowing into and probably a lot more valuation growth moving forward.
I was a little surprised by the youth sports fervor. And we know that
of all
Harris
people, I feel like, understand the business.
I do,
sports.
But I just wondering where's the ROI, and I can see the big brand stuff, and HBSE already purchased Ripken Baseball.
Yeah. Right.
And they got the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. That's a huge term. I get that. I guess the success there lies in aggregation, right? I mean, it's just numbers, and then
scale.
There's something in the hockey rinks called Live Barn, where if you can't make it, it's funny, before our games, there's always the parent group chat, and it's parents at home saying, "Hey, what rink are we in? Is it rink 1 or 3? I need to know for Live Barn." So, I mean, it's a thing. Now you see, can you scale it to the gymnasiums for volleyball and basketball? Can you do it for the soccer fields? And think about that recurring revenue stream. Do the math of all the schools in the country and the people who want to sign up, and whether it's $9.99 a month or $19. I am the one, by the way. I am the one odd hockey parent that does not have a Live Barn account. If I'm not there, I ain't watching.
You're usually there, though. Yeah.
I am usually there, but even if I'm not, I go I'm old school as can be there. Just text me when somebody scores. And then you have to sweat it. That's really the worst way to watch a youth hockey game. My kid's in net, and somebody's texting me, 2-2, 4 minutes to go, 2-2, a minute 8 to go, 3-2. It's like, it's every time you get the bing for a text message, you're like, oh, please let us score. Not the easy way to watch.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. The thing about youth sports is the huge amount of scale. The fact that, as you are well aware of, all this stuff is very expensive, and there's a lot of parents who are willing to open their checkbook to have this flashy thing, this other thing. Training is an interesting one. The live streaming that you're talking about there with Live Barn, statistics. The keeping an organization of statistics, just the organization of teams themselves.
And by the way, tech friendly now. You've got a lot of advanced analytics at the higher levels.
The recruiting process, the recruiting video process. There is a whole bunch of these ecosystems that have been. No one has actually really, I don't think, yet made them at scale for a national audience. And youth sports certainly seems like, I think when people say I'm interested in youth sports, facilities, Scott, another huge one. Big either hockey or soccer, big fields.
Go look at, we're on our way at Phoenix for C-Suite at the start of November. They will bring thousands of teams, whether it be baseball or soccer or lacrosse, to the Phoenix area.
Yeah.
They have huge facilities.
Yeah, so I think all of this is just the opportunity to scale to such a large group of people as opposed to professional sports, right, which is 250 teams in the U.S.
Shout out, by the way, to the city of Utica. Speaking of facilities, I had no idea. The Nexus Center in Utica is a beautiful 3-rink hockey facility right next door to where the Devils farm team, the Utica Comets, plays. We took in the Comets and the Syracuse Crunch on Friday night. But, I mean, this facility is something. I wonder how often they use it, but they did for this tournament. All the hotel. Good luck, by the way, this weekend. Good luck getting a hotel room within 20 miles of Utica. So many teams there. So you see sort of the sport business component of there. But you said, open or cut the check. You said that earlier. You know who will not cut the check?
Sheikh
Jassim
bin Hamad Al Thani.
That's who is not cutting the check. That is exactly right. And the Manchester United stock is tanking on the news that the Glazers may be only selling 25% of the club and not surrendering control to Jim Ratcliffe, as had appeared earlier. So, yeah, I thought for sure. I think early on, people were figuring, all right, Sheikh Jassim, if he wants the club, it'll be his. He'll pay whatever. Guess what? Not the case.
Yeah, it turns out not to be true. And the stock dropping is interesting because there's still some confusion. Reporting says that Jim Ratcliffe, British billionaire, zooming in on a 25% purchase, a minority stake in Manchester United. It's unclear if that includes Class B shares only, which is Glazer shares, or if it also includes some Class A shares, which are the publicly traded shares. So if you are a Manchester United stock owner and maybe purchased something in the past 3 months, which many, many people did, thinking that Sheikh Jassim Al Thani was going to buy 100% of the club, including all of the Class A shares. Now you're maybe facing a prospect where Ratcliffe buys just 25% from Class B, which is just the Glazer shares. You don't get anything paid out of your own shares. And now suddenly you're back holding Manchester United shares, which were worth a lot less back when the 100% sale was not on the table. So an interesting one there for investors, and an interesting one for Manchester United, Scott. As we've talked about on the show a lot, the economics of European soccer are tough. The costs are soaring, the player costs specifically, with no end in sight. Teams like Manchester United have a bit of debt. They need money. They need to figure out what they're thinking about with their stadium, et cetera. So 25% on a $6 billion valuation is roughly $1.5 billion, if my math is right there.
I think it's exactly $1.5 billion.
Great, nailed it. Thank you, Mr. Elder. I think that's a lot of cash, right? That's a lot of money to be able to use at your disposal. So we'll see what they do with it. But interesting that after months and months and months of this process, it looks like instead of getting a full sale of Manchester United, we're instead getting a fairly significant minority stake sale.
I find it interesting you chose Mr. Elder. What grade math was Mr. Elder? Why did you pick him?
Mr. Elder was fifth grade.
Oh, fifth. I thought usually credit would go for this something to the seventh. Grade? You went early.
Yeah, maybe I was a genius back then. Maybe I could do 25% of 6.
We'll say we'll leave it. Leave it at maybe. So I'm checking. Yeah. By the way, at Invest, a number of people did discuss possible European soccer investments, and as we said, your biggest cost is players. Player salaries, and there is no control like the NFL. There's no salary cap. So multiple people said that would scare me off for now. The fact that there's just no control. And it seemed, by the way, they seem to be escalating. I know we're talk a bit of getting this, reining it in, but for now, it's no holy grail of the NFL where your biggest cost is capped.
And not only are the costs rising, but the wealth of the people you're competing against is
willing
also
to spend.
Rising. When you have teams that are owned by Middle Eastern countries or sovereign wealth funds, right, who are $600 billion in the bank, that's a little bit different than competing against your fellow billionaire, which is what's happening right now in most U.S. sports. So, yeah, not only the costs rising, but the costs are rising largely because the people at the top of the ecosystem from a spending standpoint have more or less unlimited funds. And I agree with you. I think that would scare me also if I was an investor.
Well, that's because Mr. Elder told you so, taught you so well. You know that no cap, and you can do those math.
Exactly. Yeah.
I remember now. I usually bring in the Soshnick value add, and on this one it's only half because I don't remember what he said, but I do remember asking years ago. I remember asking Mark Cuban, "Is it success if you win the championship but lose money?" And if I know Mark, and I really don't remember what he said, but I'm going to guess what he said. I mean, it was just one of those, you're at practice and you're on the court and you throw a question, you're just having a conversation. My guess would be that for the first championship, Mark would say, I don't care.
Yep.
I don't care if I lose $5, $10 million, $20 million. I don't care. I want the ring. I won the championship. Subsequent championships, though, you'd have to make a profit and win. That would be the success. Now, if you ask some of the owners in the EPL, I don't think the answer would be the same. It would be just win. Just get me a Champions League, get me an EPL championship, and we're happy. It doesn't have to be straight up ROI on that team. And I'm looking at ManU right now. Are you familiar with your table now? Are you paying attention to the EPL season?
Only vaguely.
Okay. In the 10th position.
Middle of the pack. Okay.
Yeah, tied with Palace, 1 point behind, speaking of wealth funds, Newcastle.
Okay.
So, safe, nowhere near relegation.
Which is not the metric that they want you thinking about Manchester United in.
You have to be comforted right now. If you're the majority of the EPL should be happy with Sheffield, because they've got 1 point. They're going down. Bournemouth has 3. Burnley is 4. Luton 4. Luton Town. Everton at 7. Brentford at 7. So with the 2 below you, even Brentford and Everton, I'm not saying they feel comfortable, but you're looking at the bottom going, there's a significant quartet of those that are tucked at the bottom vying for those bottom 3 positions.
Yeah, Manchester United wants you thinking about where they are in Champions League, right?
Of course. Well, you got to be in the top 4. Let's go. You got to move up.
About the bottom. Chelsea also, I know, is down there. And
wait, hold on. Let me see my Chelsea position. Hold on.
15th?
No, actually 11, right behind ManU, 1 point.
Okay, so
right, tied with Fulham. Speaking of Shad Khan. I know we weren't speaking of Shad Khan, but... That doesn't. By the way, do you like my new mood lighting? Do you notice I've softened the overhead? Normally, it's a very harsh overhead light. I use the dimmer.
Okay.
I think this is a much
very savvy.
I think this is a much better look for me.
It looks good. Yeah, I agree. All right,
post this clip.
Let's move on. Some big news in baseball, Scott. Surprising. I think both of us. Kim Ng, the general manager of the Miami Marlins, the first female general manager in baseball history, made the playoffs this year, and the team announced this morning that she is not coming back next year. There was a mutual option on her contract. It sounds like the team was willing to have her back, but she declined the option.
Somebody explain this to me, because this was a good question from Matt Bach, our managing editor. Like, I don't get this mutual option, one no, one yes. Why not just have the contract expire then, and then if you want to re-up, everybody re-ups?
I think there's value in having the terms laid out. Maybe there's not. I don't know. It's an interesting question.
The team just got burned. This is a terrible look then of the Marlins. We want you back. No.
She's leaving. I think the option part is maybe not as important as she's going to take a different job. Yeah.
Red Sox?
Red Sox certainly seem like one of the ones that people are speculating against. That would be a jump up, I think, in prestige, certainly of franchise. Would be great for her. The Miami has gone through a lot of changes on ownership side and also on executive side in the past few years. This is just the latest, but I know there were a lot of people that were impressed with her, the job that they did getting this team into the playoffs this year, which not a lot of people expected, and certainly a step back, I think, when that general manager decides to leave fairly abruptly.
Yeah, I'm surprised by the move, but not surprised by the move. You are following the Olympic sports. You've been on that. You were chatting with Casey Wasserman not long ago. You've been following this. I said to you, this feels X Games to me. This feels like a way of just trying to get renewed interest. And my buddy Alan Abrahamson wrote a column the other day talking about that Taylor Swift has what the Olympics needs. and it's buzz and it's reach and it's
young people.
Yeah. I mean, like they got to figure out how to get Taylor Swift involved in the Olympic movement and not just the Kansas City Chiefs and the NFL. I'm just going by my focus group of one, guessing he has not heard this news, guessing he does not care about this news, and guessing he will not say, hey, Dad, put on the Olympics when they're on. I want to see baseball, softball, lacrosse, and the others. I just don't see this working for him. And then I ask, what does that mean for the attempt to reach a bigger audience?
It's going to be a really interesting 4 or 5 years in the Summer Olympics world. We have the Paris Games coming up next year. They are going to be a massive commercial bonanza. The last Summer Olympics was in Tokyo. It was delayed a year because of COVID. It was kind of a dud from a hospitality and a sponsorship, and I think for a lot of athletes also was kind of an underwhelming experience. Everybody seems to be hoping that that France next summer is going to be kind of the reemerging of the Olympics as a thing. And then you start the 4-year clock onto LA, which if you're looking for kind of the Taylor Swift style
flag
celebrity
football
buzz, LA is a great city to do that
Sure.
in, right? And Casey Wasserman is a pretty darn good person to be leading the charge to get that together. I think the LA Games are going to be because it's America, because this is the biggest sports marketing industry in the world, because we live here also. I think it's going to feel more like an Olympic thing than maybe we've felt in this country in a very long time. Adding these 6 sports, which were official as of Monday morning, Scott: squash, cricket, baseball, softball, lacrosse, and flag football. I think X Games is maybe an interesting comparison. I think they're just trying things, right? Every host nation gets a chance to add.
I'm all for trying.
That they think their home audience really likes to see. And this is, I think, that it's flag football because there's a lot of football fans here. Baseball and softball, obviously huge sports in this country. Cricket is not a huge sport in this country, but there's a lot of investors, and it's a huge sport internationally. Lacrosse, the only sport, I think, major sport that was founded in North America, was created here. So a big tie to North America for that. And then squash. I find squash to be a really interesting one because of the way in which you can play it pretty much anywhere in a glass cube. I'm sure that LA is going to be thinking about fun things for that. But yeah, I think we're going to see more of this from the Olympics. I know they're talking about reviving their attempts at maybe having an esports competition of some sort, maybe not part of the games, but something right around the games. Auto racing got fairly close in terms of maybe trying to get into the Olympics for the first time. There's a lot of interesting things happening here as the Olympics, like every other sports property, tries to figure out what's going to get interesting buzz, what's going to get kids watching, etc.
So where exactly did Dr. James Naismith post his peach basket on a pole?
Very good point. I believe that was Kansas, France. Is that right?
Yeah, Kansas, France.
One of the few sports that was founded in North America.
Yeah, one of the few. All right. And I joke. And we see, again, I love things that make me laugh and too much. But so Aaron Rodgers comes out on the field before the Jets beat the Eagles, and he's throwing a football. I get it. It's, he had Achilles surgery. He's not using crutches. And like the world erupts with, oh my God, Aaron Rodgers is throwing. To which you and I do our thing, and I like when, like, where I'm going. I'm like, he didn't have elbow surgery. Like, if he was running through cones, I'd be like, wow, look at Aaron Rodgers. But he was pretty much just not exactly pushing off with his. He was just standing there throwing a football, and the world erupts like, oh my God, can you believe how quickly he's recovered? But anyway, the story that we wrote, they got a lot of attention.
I agree with you, by the way.
Yeah, I'm like, he's throwing. This is not. He didn't have shoulder or elbow surgery. That would be impressive. He's just standing there throwing a football. He's not throwing it 80 yards.
This is like essentially what a lot of quote unquote journalism is now.
It feels very look at me.
Throwing praise at something. It's either a clip or it's a single statistic. It is like, oh my gosh, this is amazing because of this one thing. And then if you think about some of these things for a half a second, which you clearly did about where Rodgers was
I gave it a solid 3 seconds.
Yeah, the things start to crumble around that. But I agree with you. I do think it's funny that one little clip like that, and suddenly Aaron Rodgers is it's a medical
He's ready to return.
And
he'll be playing in week 8.
Might play, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he'll be back in week 8. Yep, it's insanity.
Very, very silly.
But what is not insanity is the sports business tie. You and our friend Daniel Libet did yeoman's journalism, and you found out that the New York Jets, despite several attempts by insurers, chose not to insure Aaron Rodgers' contract. Could have saved him in the aggregate with $25 million had they done it with this injury, but they chose not to. Your reporting says what?
This is an interesting one. There are some NFL teams that try to insure all of their star players' contracts so that if something happens, if that player gets hurt and misses games, they get some kind of financial recoup for that. Then there are other teams that, from what we understand, don't do it at all. And the Jets are one of them. So they signed 39-year-old quarterback Aaron Rodgers to a new $75 million guaranteed deal in the offseason. And there were offers. They at least looked at the pricing to a degree and then decided.
Well, say what the pricing was.
This is not what we do. I think there were multiple offers, but from what we understand, the premiums were anywhere between like $900,000 and $4 or $5 million, and that was going to cover some range, the upper end of which was
60% of the deal.
Was the 20? Yeah, was roughly $20 million or so. They owed him $36 million, I think, this year. So not cheap. And if you can imagine, in the world of insuring an athlete, a 39-year-old quarterback is probably one of the more
expensive. Well, not only 39, but let's look at this more holistically.
Yeah.
Let's look holistically. You're the opponent for the New York Jets. What is, in your defensive scheme, what is the number one thing that's on the blackboard as you're going into each and every game?
Aaron Rodgers.
Kill the quarterback.
Get pressure. Yeah.
That's it. No. It's not get pressure. It's not pressure. It's we'll take a 15-yard penalty if you absolutely crunch Aaron Rodgers and at the time bring in his backup Zach Wilson, who, by the way, he's got a nice little thing going right now.
Out a little bit.
Yeah. I want to see the endorsements that go flooding his way. Right. It's not going to be Taylor Swift showing up, but I'm very curious to see what goes on here with Zach Wilson and where he goes if he can win a few more ball games. So it's not a if my quarterback gets hurt. It's the when. So I don't know. I mean, I get it. It's their decision. They can pay whatever. But I think I would have sided on the cautious here and maybe taken the insurance on Aaron Rodgers. And I understand this is rearview mirror. I got his hindsight. I got it. But I'm giving you my thought process, what it would have been looking forward, saying this guy's gonna get hit, and he's gonna get hit a lot, and he's 39 years old. Might want to take out that insurance policy.
I was speaking to someone for this story who likened this insurance to rental car insurance.
Yeah,
that there are some people that get it always. There are people that
Woody is paying Aaron with his American Express, so it's fine. He's covered. He's covered there.
I think where that argument kind of breaks down is the point that is what we're saying here. Also, is that this is not just any player, right? This is the most important player on your team. He's relatively old by NFL standards. He has been injured a number of times in the past. He's missed a number of games in the past for various injuries. So the Jets decided to self-insure. My big question will be the next time the Jets sign a huge star, a big guaranteed contract, do they revisit this policy of not doing this insurance, or do they continue ahead saying, I know we got burned that one time, but on the whole, we've come out ahead by not paying these high premiums, and we're going to continue to do it. But it's interesting to me, Scott, that there's so much groupthink in the NFL. Mm-hmm. 32 teams that generally watch what everybody else is doing, take best practices. The fact that there are NFL teams that have, from what we understand, 15 or more insured players contracts on their team, and there are some NFL teams that have 0 insured contracts on their team, I think is really fascinating. Because again, that is two vastly different approaches to the exact same roster construction and finance question, and the fact that in the modern NFL there's that big a gap in some of these things will continue to surprise me.
My star running back and my star quarterback. If I'm handing that ball off 25, 30 times a game, if I'm dropping back 25, 30 times a game, I am insuring you. Take us out. Take us higher, Mr. Novi Williams.
Can you take me higher? He is Scott Soshnick on Twitter at Soshnick. I am Eben Novi Williams on Twitter at Novi_Williams. The show is produced by Aaron Greenewald, who might cut out all of this for copyright infringement. But thank you to Aaron. Sportico's digital media editor, Cora Veltman, who may or may not be a Creed fan, would like you to know that you can follow the show on Twitter at Sporticast, which is the hub of the Sportico Media Network.